this one's pretty nice.
Nice.
It's just me.
It's just patting.
Yeah,
Sometimes you gotta pat them titties.
sometimes you gotta.
Hey, it's Megan.
And Sue in the restricted section.
And today we are going to do a review of Fledgling by Octavia Butler.
Queen Octavia Butler.
Queen Octavia.
And we're gonna drink some Wailuha Wheat. Is that how you say that? Wailuha?
Wailuha?
This is from Kona Brewing Co.
Yes.
And it's a ale brewed with tropical passion fruit.
And it looks like it's in Hawaii, Oregon, and New Hampshire.
And it says, Wailuha is Hawaiian for two freshwater streams mingling.
Oh. Well, let's let this mingle with my mouth. That's sweeter than I anticipated.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel like it's that sweet. I don't really taste any like fruitiness in it.
Let's give it some time to simmer.
It just tastes like a plain old wheat beer to me. So, we decided to just say fuck it with spoiler-free reviews. If you want to see a spoiler-free review of this, then just watch our wrap-up at the end of the month. So we're, forewarning, we're just going to say what we want, and there may or may not be spoilers.
Yeah.
Probably will be.
So I will definitely give spoilers because that's what I do. So
I'm just so bad at knowing what a spoiler is or not. Because I don't care that much about spoilers, so I will say something that I feel like to me isn't a spoiler and to someone else it would be.
It's a spoiler, right.
So anyway, so this book is about a little girl who wakes up in a cave and she has amnesia and she comes to discover that she's a vampire and most of her family has been murdered and she was the only survivor.
Yes.
So throughout the book, she's kind of trying to figure out what happened to her family and also kind of figure out how to be a vampire again.
Right. Yes.
And I think that this is probably Octavia Butler's book that is kind of the most polarizing, I think. I see a lot of people say that they dislike this book. And I can understand that because, one, I think if you go into it thinking it's a horror novel, you're probably going to be disappointed because it's not, I wouldn't call it a horror novel, even though it's about a vampire. It's not scary, and I don't think it's supposed to be. And it's not like super fast-paced or anything like that. It's not,
it's not action-y.
Yeah.
It's
for the most part.
Just weird. It's like a weird social commentary.
Yeah. Yeah, and also there's some stuff that we will discuss that is very uncomfortable, and I could also see why that would totally turn some people off from it. But I actually ended up really liking this book.
I did too. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, and I was it wasn't until like probably the last maybe third or quarter of it that I really was like, okay, I really like this. Like the first 2/3 or so, I was like, I didn't dislike it, but I was like, I feel like this is going to be like a 3-star read for me. And then when I got to the end, I was like, okay, it's definitely at least 4 stars. But yeah, like you mentioned, there is some really interesting social commentary. Definitely in regard to like power dynamics.
Definitely.
I think because for one, you find out that the Aina, I think is what...
Yeah.
That's how I pronounce it anyway. That's what the vampires call themselves, they're the Aina. You find out that they're actually like a matriarchal society. So she is very powerful. She's still a child. She's actually 53 years old.
Yeah, but she's a child in Aina years.
But she looks like a child. She looks like, I think, like an 11-year-old
Yeah, I think that's what
girl.
it said. Yeah.
And she is still, like, considered an adolescent in the Aina society. And then also, going back to the uncomfortableness.
Yeah.
The Aina have to have symbionts, which are humans that they basically feed off of.
Right.
And so right off the bat, before she even really realizes what she's doing, because she has amnesia, she feeds off of this man, a grown man, and then they have a sexual relationship after that, which is normal in her society.
Right.
Like, even though she's still an adolescent in the Aina society, it's still normal for her to be like having a sexual relationship with her symbionts and to have multiple symbionts already at her age.
Right, and of, different genders and different ages.
Yeah, males,
and
females.
all that good stuff.
But this man is like her first symbiont, and multiple times it's mostly him that it talks about like her having sex with.
Yeah.
And it's very uncomfortable because she's, like I said, she looks like an 11-year-old child. She's definitely more mature. Like, she doesn't speak like a child or think like a child.
Right.
But she looks like a child. And it's not described in like great detail, but it's definitely like
There's some
really disturbing.
Yeah.
And they describe multiple times her having sex with this man, and sort of with her other symbionts at times too.
Yeah. But it's mostly with this dude.
But mostly with this man, but I found it like really interesting because in this relationship, because he picks her up on the side of the road and has no ill intention. He just sees this little girl on the side of the road who looks in distress, and he's like, "Can I help you? Can I drive you somewhere?"
Oh my God, because she's injured, so she looks a mess.
Right, and so he picks her up with absolutely no, malicious intent. Then she bites him, and that's what she had, like, her saliva has like a venom, basically, that makes him become dependent on her and also like sexually attracted to her. So to me, like, I found it really interesting because, like, in this relationship, he's actually like the non-consenting party, more so,
and he struggles with that throughout the book. You know, like, am I here because I want to be here, or am I here because you made me with your bite? Like, yeah.
So even though it was uncomfortable and disturbing because she's a child, I'm like, should this have been uncomfortable because he's like didn't really consent to this?
Yeah, he didn't.
So that was a really interesting dynamic there.
Yeah. It really was, and I thought it was interesting too because when she first bit him, she didn't realize that it would bond him to her that way. And once she realized the extent of that, she like kind of gave him the option to leave, but
because it's like at a certain point they can't leave because if they do they'll die.
Right.
But at that point he could still leave and survive, but he was already already kind of addicted
to her venom.
So
she kind of gave him an out, but like, did she really? Because like, what degree of choice did he have at that point?
Right.
Yeah. So it's
so it's kind of like it's kind of like a drug.
Yeah. It's kind of icky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, I found kind of fascinating.
Yeah, it was really fascinating.
Yeah.
And it was interesting too how willing, because she had that older
older woman who was like very lonely, and she was almost, I think, attracted to her loneliness.
Yeah, I think she could like sense it out, and then I think at that point she had more of a handle on like what she was. I think she was better able to give the female symbiont some degree of choice. And that the female symbiont wanted to be with her. Yeah. And chose to be with her.
Gung ho from the very beginning, was like very
please.
excited
Let's
about
do
it.
This.
And then there's also definitely some stuff about race in there because Shori, who's the main character, maybe we should have said that in the beginning.
Right. Sure.
It's right. She's black, and she's the only Aina who is black. And she's kind of an experiment because they've been trying to, basically make themselves stronger, and so they, what's the word I'm looking for?
Kind of genetically
Created her
or modified her
to be more resistant to the sun, because they are all pale and sensitive to the sun to the point that they can't even really function in the daytime.
Right, they kind of go comatose during the day and then they're active at night.
Yeah, so she, because she has darker skin, she is less sensitive to the sun. She still is some, but she can be active during the daytime and just needs to, like, cover up.
Right, just make sure she's not exposed. And
Yeah, so in that way it makes her less vulnerable.
Right.
Because she's alert, can be alert at all times.
And she can respond to any kind of threat.
Right.
Yeah. So, but there are those among the Aina who are very
Purists,
strongly,
I would say. They're purists.
They're purists.
And they think that she's kind of an abomination.
Right. So they're very strongly opposed to her and her family. And so they actually attack her family, and they're the reason why, you know, she's the sole survivor, but then they go after anyone who helps her. And so then they have to call. I loved the Aina Council. Like, that was my favorite.
That was interesting.
Part, I think, of the book. But they call this Aina Council, and it's like specific, like a certain number of members of like high-ranking or old Aina families or whatever come together and try to figure out who's doing this and what to do about it. And so then they kind of address the racism issue among themselves and sort that out.
Yeah, and that was really interesting. My one thing that I disliked about this book, the one main thing I disliked about this book is that I felt like the dialogue was really unnatural and just stiff. And so, yeah, I didn't like that. But other than that, I mean, like I said, it wasn't super compelling. It actually took me a long time to read this. But I don't think that's necessarily means it's bad. I think it just...
Right. It's not like a...
It wasn't supposed to be an action-packed...
Right. Page-turner of a novel.
Right.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting, too, that the male and female Aina live apart. Like, once they're sexually mature, they don't live with... Like, they may be mated to another Aina, but they don't live together.
Right.
Which I thought was interesting.
And in fact, they kind of, like, couldn't stand to be around each other.
Yeah, they were made uncomfortable by the other's presence.
Yeah,
even if it was, like, an Aina in their family.
Yeah, so they had, like, they lived together in family groups, but it would be, like, the women of the family would live in one area, and the men of the family would live in a different area, together with all their symbionts. And also the symbionts were, like, free to have their own relationships and, like, marry other humans and
do whatever they would do with each other,
Yeah. And it also talked about how, I don't know, like, the symbionts in some ways almost just seemed like pets.
Kind of.
Because they lived a shorter lifespan. They did, like, being a symbiont and getting, you know, the vampire venom regularly did extend your life. Like, I think humans who were symbionts would live to be about 200 years old, wasn't it?
I think that's what it said. And it made you, like, stronger, so you're better able to withstand, like, diseases and
but still
maladies.
In the, you know, the Aina lived much longer than that. I don't think they were immortal, but they would live for,
I think,
hundreds and maybe even...
thousands. I'm trying to remember how old, because it talked about, like, one of the older...
Yeah, I think he was, I want to say they said he was, like, over 500 years old or something.
Yeah, that seems right.
It might have been more than that, though, but, yeah, it was kind of like pets because, you know, they knew that, like, they would have to go through loss of their symbionts, and it was, like, they did, like, really love their symbionts, and it was, like, devastating for them to lose one.
Right, and they needed
and
it just made
me think of pets.
Yeah. And they were, like, protective of the symbionts and try to give them a good life, and I feel like that's what I like to do for my pets.
Right.
I'm just here trying to give my dogs a better life.
Yeah, me too.
So, you know.
I think that, like, in true Octavia Butler fashion, it was, you know, a book that seems like it's gonna be just a silly vampire book, and then it's got, like,
all this
so much
deep
depth
shit.
and
hit you with those social issues, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend this, but I would go into it knowing that one, it's not really a horror novel, and two, there's some weird, uncomfortable, you know, child having sex stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna get weird. I don't know if it's more or less weird than alien sex, than three-way,
I think it was
consensual-ish alien sex.
Maybe it was less weird, but it was more uncomfortable, and but the alien sex was a little non-consensual too.
Yeah. So, damn, Octavia Butler.
Damn, girl.
Hitting it hard.
Yeah, so once again, I have, you know, can't say anything real bad about Octavia Butler.
Nope.
Like I said, my only problem was like the dialogue was
A little weird.
yeah, not super believable, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
It was just very, and I mean, at one point I was like, well, maybe it's just like how the Aina speak, but the humans spoke like that too, and I was like, this doesn't really seem right. But yeah, that was not a huge problem to me.
Right.
You know. So,
But yeah, I liked it. Yeah.
Fledgling.
Octavia Butler. Big Queen Octavia. Read it with caution.
Read with caution. Yeah, and this beer's okay. I don't love it.
It's
I feel like I've lost my taste for wheat beers in general.
they just kind of all start to taste the same, I feel like.
Yeah, but this one, like, it says tropical passion fruit, but I'm not tasting that at all.
I taste some sweetness in it.
Really?
I do, but like not any more than like I think Blue Moon has a little bit of a sweet
I think
flavor
Blue Moon
too.
tastes more sweet than this to me.
Really? Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I don't like even among wheat beers, I would say it's not my favorite. Yeah, so
It's
probably
alright.
wouldn't really recommend it. But that will be all for us today. There'll be some links below where you can find us other places on the internet.
And if you're not already subscribed to the restricted section, you should do so.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.